With the authority of the Council, I shall now confer the degree of Doctor of the University. I call upon the Vice-Chancellor to make this presentation.
Acting Deputy Chancellor, the Council of the University has resolved to award the degree of Doctor of the University to Mr Arthur Scurr, MBE. Arthur Thomas Scurr was born in March 1928 at Corinda in Brisbane. His family moved to Mount Gravatt in 1931 and their strong association with the area continues to this day. Arthur Scurr's early schooling took place at Mount Gravatt State School, followed by secondary schooling at the Industrial High School, where he gained his junior certificate in 1942. He was employed as a radiographic cadet from 1943 to 1948, undertaking night study at the Central Technical College and Brisbane General Hospital. During this time he became the Secretary of the Radiographers Society of Queensland and studied bookkeeping with international correspondence schools. Excuse me. A career change occurred when Mr Scurr decided to enter the family business of motor bodybuilding and spray painting. In 1952, Scurr Brothers changed from a partnership to a proprietary limited company and Arthur Scurr purchased a third share. The family continued to build motor bodies as well as selling timber and hardware. As one of the 5 outlets for the new Victor mower, the business achieved record sales. In the early 1960s, Arthur Scurr was one of the first Queensland hardware merchants to join the flourishing Mitre 10 group. As the first Queensland chairman and ultimately the national chairman from 1973, he was instrumental in stimulating the growth of Mitre 10 in country areas. Based on the Queensland model of operations, he ensured the success of Mitre 10 nationwide, sending recruiting teams into Tasmania, South Australia, Western Australia and later into New Zealand. In all he served 26 years on the Mitre 10 Queensland board and 20 years on the national board. Over the last 20 years Arthur Scurr has made many significant contributions to the business community. He has served on a wide range of important committees where his experience and business acumen have been a guiding influence in achieving successful outcomes. He has been chairman of the Mount Gravatt Central Chamber of Commerce and a director of the Queensland Research Institute, the Australian Stationery Distributors and the Small Business Development Corporation. In 1987 he participated as part of the Savage inquiry into government regulations affecting small business. Arthur Scurr retired as Chief Executive Officer of the Scurr Companies in 1993 but has remained as chairman. He is also chairman of Magami Corporation Limited, an engineering company which operates a joint venture with MIM Holdings in the manufacture and marketing of copper roofing and accessories. Arthur Scurr has been very active in local community affairs, particularly in the Mount Gravatt area. In 1963 he took a lead in a successful campaign to ensure that the promised Mount Gravatt Library was built by the Brisbane City Council. Between 1970 and 1978 he was one of the key figures in leading the long battle which prevented the sale of the Mount Gravatt Showground to commercial interests. The case went as far as the Privy Council in London, the then highest court of appeal for Australian legal matters. Even though it was not until 1989 that the Mount Gravatt Showground Act was proclaimed, the pressure to retain the showgrounds for local community use was successful, an achievement that can be attributed to Arthur Scurr's untiring commitment and dedication to community ideals. He remains a member of the Mount Gravatt Showgrounds Trust. Arthur Scurr has also been a driving force in the establishment of such diverse activities as the Mount Gravatt Building Society Group and the Meals on Wheels services for Mount Gravatt and Holland Park, and has served as chairman of the Shaftesbury Citizen Centre. Over a long period of time, Mr Scurr has maintained a keen interest in the provision of quality education in the Mount Gravatt area. For 11 years he was an active member of the Council of the Mount Gravatt College of Advanced Education, the forerunner of the Mount Gravatt campus of this university. His association with education continued as a member of the Council of the Mount Gravatt College of TAFE and as a member of the Parents and Citizens Committees of the Mount Gravatt East State School and the Cavendish Road State High School, as well as patron of the Mount Gravatt East State School, McGregor State High School and the Sunnybank Repertory Company. Arthur Scurr's association with and contribution to the educational, business and general community of the Mount Gravatt area has been exemplary over many years. His outstanding service to the community was recognised in 1985 when he was made a member of the Order of the British Empire. It is especially fitting that the Council of Griffith University should honour Arthur Scurr, member of the Order of the British Empire, in recognition of his distinguished services to education, business and the community. Acting Deputy Chancellor, it is with great pleasure that I present to you Arthur Thomas Scurr for admission to the degree of Doctor of the University.
I now call upon Mr. Arthur Scurr, MBE, Doctor of the University, to deliver his occasional address.
Vice-Chancellor, Acting Deputy Chancellor, the staff of the uni, fellow graduates, you did the hard work, ladies and gentlemen, and of course a particular greeting to old friends and compatriots in many ventures over many years, and to my wife and family members. Thank you to the Council of the University for this singular honour. I accept with humility because I know, in spite of the long list that was read, that many friends in the audience know that I wouldn't be here without their help and wisdom. A special thanks to each of them. They know who they are. Now, to the business at hand. I entitled my address, Why Teaching? It's a question that I am in a position to answer because I happen to think that teaching is about as important a thing as anyone can do. The prominent reason that people enter the profession, I think, is just that. It's to respond to a vocational call. The never-ending battle to enlighten and civilise each generation requires as well a never-ending supply of practical, energetic idealists, people just like you. There are, of course, other motives, and it might be interesting to examine just a couple of them. Andy Nimmo, the inaugural principal of the Mount Gravatt Teachers College, became the first director of that college when it's changed its name to a CAE, and of course it's now absorbed within the structure of Griffith. During his retirement speech, Andy confessed to an unexpected career motive and rather surprised us all. He joined the profession from a small town in the South Burnett during the Great Depression, and I quote from what he said, "Simply because teaching offered me an available career and the security of a safe government job in a desperate era." He said that as his training progressed, he became engrossed and committed in the subject and in the career. He rose to the highest strata of the department and the profession. My wife's mother was a teacher. She's 96 years of age and she's here tonight. I wondered what her motives were, so I asked. She said, as a 13-year-old student at New Farm State School, I had no desire to teach. My ambition was to pass the scholarship exam and work in the office in my uncle's wholesale grocery business. One day the headmaster, Mr. Cunningham, invited me to his office. "Aileen, you'd make a good teacher. I'd like you to leave your class and start as a pupil teacher next week. Please ask your parents' permission." Aileen went home. She told her parents about the offer and that she didn't want to take it. Her father was aghast. "Take the job, Aileen. It's a good, steady job, and just think of all the holidays." Aileen fronted her class the next Monday, teaching. She taught with 2 or 3 breaks for 52 years. She loved it, and along the way she passed her exams and qualified, as did many pupil teachers, though it may be interesting for the university to pause and recall that many exceptionally valuable pupil teachers simply grew in their jobs without ever becoming formally qualified. My wife and 3 of our 4 daughters occupy, I think, another spectrum. They're also teachers. The odd bod is a journalist. They're all here tonight, and some of their husbands, and they're a small percentage of our grandchildren. My wife and later each of the girls enjoyed intense and persistent indoctrination from the generation above, though any suggestion of brainwashing is treated with disdain by mother and grandmother, and perhaps some of you had the same experience. Suffice it to say that each child except one developed in its purest form the ideal that they should teach and do whatever they could to assist and encourage children to become good citizens and to make the most of their God-given abilities. We heard maternal statements like this: "Teaching is the finest occupation there is." Now that's powerful, isn't it? Questions at the dinner table played a part. Who, apart from their fathers and mothers, most influenced the development of prime ministers, scientists, truck drivers, tradesmen, salespeople and doctors? If you give the right answer, I'll serve the pudding. Undue influence? Yes. Social engineering? Yes. Apology? No. They deny any such intent. Quote, "My children chose their own careers." I wonder what your motivation is. Whatever it is, tonight you become a qualified or even a more qualified teacher. Regardless of motivation and regardless of the discipline in which you'll teach, you may be the one teacher in some students' entire school and college career to detect a particular flicker of interest, to light a flame, to develop that interest and excellence and fan it until it's a self-sustaining fire. You may be the person who thus unlocks the future success, happiness and contribution of that student, and probably of many others. Be sure the chance, the opportunity, the challenge to play that part will come to you. Of course you're a social engineer. Just be ready to be a constructive one. You know what I mean. You've met wise teachers. That's why we respond or even cry when we read "Goodbye, Mr. Chips." Maybe you're here tonight because of the influence of such a teacher. Teachers are people builders. A school is not a family. A business is not a family. Yet many of the attitudes present in good, strong and purposeful families are present in good, strong schools and businesses. The effects are obvious in the bearing, in the productivity, in the character, and later in every aspect of successful lives. Teachers, by the very nature of their jobs, must of necessity demand much of their pupils. They may employ the maxim, "Do unto others as they to you should do," but they apply it to mean, expect the very best from others because they expect nothing less from me. And it's far from a bleeding heart approach. The disciplined and logical attitude must be there. Like it or not, teachers operate in a tough environment, the world as it is at any given time, and with one eye on what's coming, what the changes might be. And other professions, of course, are caught up in this as well, and it's been said to the point of ad nauseum that we live in a time of enormous change. We know it's true. Once upon a time we could debate it. We no longer can. And in all this change, and in all this search for stability among change, teachers are a part of the thin blue line, as are the police service, the hospitals, the courts, our doctors, health inspectors, etc. There is, however, a spectacular difference with teachers, because teachers and pupils spend many years in close contact with each other and have an enormous effect, enormous opportunity to affect the development, I suppose, of each side. They're partners in a dedicated and constructive enterprise, during which ignorance is changed to knowledge, incompetence to capability, narrowness to breadth, awkwardness to poise, and character is built. The student's growth is the entire object of the process. You are aware, of course, as you've just graduated, that you're a counsellor, you're a psychologist, you're certainly an actor. Perhaps with the younger people you're a nurse, and you're always a friend. It's a bit of a worry, isn't it? More than in any of these, though, and whatever you do, you are something else, something quite remarkable. You are an ever-present example. Bright eyes and nimble minds are watching. Some of your students will be strong-willed, and some will be easily influenced. All need, in fact, crave fine examples. Many children and many you'll come in contact are starved of fine examples, and in life all human beings, and many animals even, learn from models. In fact, there's very little else to teach us the main lessons of life, for good or ill. We learn, and at worst ape, the people we meet and mix with at school, in peer groups, among friends, and of course because of media impacts which are universal today. Let your example be strong, good and conscious. I believe that in these matters you are not as alone as you perhaps were. A groundswell of change is occurring. Chickens are coming home to roost in many, many ways on many issues, and governments are slowly becoming better disposed to displaying some backbone in supporting high standards of all kinds. Garbage in, garbage out is no recipe for effective computing or for effective living. The recent report by Professor Ken Wiltshire about Queensland's education is a refreshing watershed in that it faces the challenge of inculcating and supporting constructive and timeless values. The oxymoron, value-free education, is recognised as just that. We note that the appropriately named John Paul College, which was never value-free, and with which I have no association, I might say, was praised recently and equally by John, the Leader of the Opposition, and Paul, the Prime Minister. Then perhaps you saw the Muslim cleric on TV late February or early March. He went close to the heart of values and your school problems, quite directly your school problems, when he said in comment about the year of the family, all sorts of alternatives to marriage and the normal family have been tried. The world should note and act on the established fact that each and every alternative has failed. There is no truthful and objective evidence on which to base a challenge to his statement, though that will not stop some people from trying, and various media outlets will encourage them. All of this external chatter influences your classrooms, and what a lot of external influence there is. Andrew Sullivan, the editor of the New Republic, was quoted in the Weekend Australian magazine insert recently on this very subject. Journalists, and I don't want to load it all on journalists, but this is what he said, journalists determine what is said and how. They frame the parameters of public debate. They help sustain the fact that debate in a democracy tends to be less about truth than about the appearance of truth. Not about arguing a case, but about posturing. And in the last few days, just think how the Murdoch press is using its pages to push Super League and the sales of their pay TV operation. Front page, I think, 4 days in a row, and you'd expect them to get the back page, and you weren't disappointed. In this regard, you may be aware that Monica Rattard, she was the journalist who did such a wonderful job reporting all the trouble in Russia, you might remember, night after night. Monica Rattard won the ABC's Gold Walkley Award in August '94, and it was not reported by most media. This happened, or rather didn't happen, because in her acceptance speech she pointed out in some detail, in probably sensitive detail, cases in which truthful reports which did not conform to a preordained pattern simply did not get a run. The thought police canned her words and ignored her high honour. That sort of thing is part of the world in which you teach. You will not expect justice in this world, but those influences need to be detected and unmasked whenever you see them. so that others may unmask them in turn. By now, some of the audience will agree with most of my remarks. Others will be wondering how such antediluvian, unmodern ideas can still be spoken about from a public platform. I'm reminded of something apposite which I can't attribute, but which impressed me and which is worth sharing. Many things are commended as modern when they display no other virtues. It is easy to become too big for our intellectual boots and to value or confuse and subvert age-old concepts, which, though superficially trite and obvious, nevertheless contain the truths upon which, and only upon which, worthwhile and lasting attainment can be built and sustained over time. Much of the knowledge you will teach relates to the unfolding of nature's secrets and the ways in which mankind has so far discovered to apply them to the service of people. The knowledge you teach will change and grow, yet however marvellous this progressive unfolding becomes, the unknown which faces all of us will always be greater. We will remain a speck in the universe. As is usual and normal, Shakespeare sums the entire matter up better than anyone. What you as graduating teachers must do, perhaps this sentiment is a bit over the top, but as you head for Aramac or Atherton, Ascot or Alberton, you know you're joining a battle. Your pulse will be racing because of that knowledge. Shakespeare covered it. He said, "Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more, or close the gap with our English dead." In this case, it's with our Australian teachers. It won't be quite that bad, of course. I wish each of you all the happiness and satisfaction that a successful career can bring. Perhaps the gems for you will be those many days when you close your classroom and leave for home thinking, well, today I'm sure I helped make the world a little better. If many teachers in this great audience are able to do that, the effect will be substantial. It's been done often. You can change the world, bit by bit, but that must be part of another address on another day.